beautiful. We are back, and it's time for us to now have a look at the newspapers this morning. And of course, starting with the Daily Nation, the top story here is Ruto men sued over classified spying software. So I see a high stakes commercial litigation has exposed President William Ruto's alleged plan to acquire an online propaganda machine to counter hostility against his administration and boost his re-election campaign. So the fallout between the president's close aides and the American owners of the 120 million shilling software has revealed the scheme to deploy confidential software with the capacity to spy on targets. This is a story on pages 6 and 7. Still on the top page, I see Gachagua security withdrawn. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has revealed that the state has now completely withdrawn his security, accusing him of sponsoring dissent against President William Ruto's government. This is a story on page 4. And I see here, still on the top page here, a very interesting story. Woman married to 2 men fights their widows over 100 million shilling estate. So Andrew Wanyoike Muthe, 54, and Geoffrey Kenyo Mwangi, 35, died 2 years apart. But in death, they are controversially united by one woman, Mary Mwende. So Mwende is fighting the widows of the 2 men, demanding a share of their properties in separate battles that expose the double lives of those involved. And a twist of fate led Wanyoike's widow, Lucy Wangeshi Mutahi, who is overseeing his estate, estimated at 100 million shilling, to Kenywa's widow, Scholastica Wairimo Gasheru. A story on pages 2 and also 3. Page 5, I see dishonorable greedy MPs pocket bodyguards and drivers' allowances. So this is a story covered on the 5th page of the Daily Nation. So National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula is urging MPs to stop pocketing the night allowances paid to their staff, saying the practice is ruining Parliament's reputation. A story on page 5. And moving on, coming down to page 6 is the story of Ruto men sued over classified software spy on Kenyans. We'd love to just get deeper into that. Kanchori Mutali and co-advocates here saying, this case involves the defendant's fraudulent misrepresentation and breach of contract, which caused the plaintiff Washuka a significant loss of $1,322,976. That is 172 million Kenyan shillings, and that's a story covered on page 6 and also 7. And more on the same, I see court documents show that the software was to have the capability to conduct searches on journalists and media houses, which would enable the government to produce and disseminate these dossiers that will counter the credibility of the media. So this is a story on page 6 and 7. You can look at it in more details. And moving on, we are seeing in page 8 that Ruto launches UON Innovation Park. So President urges youth to take advantage of opportunities created by his administration. So President William Ruto here saying the Silicon Savannah Innovation Park is your platform to define the future of Kenya's digital economy. This is a story on page 8. And moving on to the county news this morning, I see here that I see investor to run 864 million abattoir, county says. That's a story on page 6. On page this is on page 21 of the county news, and I see page 22 here. Chinkororo vigilante gang makes comeback. This is a story covering politicians have in the past used group to unleash violence on their opponents, and this is a story covered on page 22 in the county news segment. And still on the county news, man charged over attack on estranged lover. Story on page 22 still. And in Nairobi, lobby backs clergy's criticism of Ruto and also keep off drugs during holiday, Lanas told. Especially in this season, I believe monitoring even by the parents is very, very much important. And moving on to the DN2 today, that's on the Health Nation. I see page 8 is covering something interesting. Knowledge sharing among farmers boost food security. Michael is a brainchild of a networking platform where farmers share knowledge on best farming practices. A story on page 8. And coming down to page 7, I see in page 6 that is why Nandi women are opting for self-injectable contraceptive. That is a story on page 6. You can look at that as well. And going to the back page, I see former NHIF bosses face fresh probe over 828 million. So National Assembly Committee report shows hospitals manipulated NHIF systems by using single case codes to claim multiple benefits. 828 million shillings being the estimated amount of money fraudulently overpaid within defunct NHIF, according to Parliamentary Committee. Even as we continue to experience problems with the shift, NHIF is looking into fraudulent activities that actually have happened in the recent past, and report wants EACC to undertake further investigations on those who facilitated overpayment. A story on the back page this morning. And let's go to the sports page this day, and I see page 35. Let's party today. Joy as Sudan defies war to qualify for AFCON. So the team made up of players based in African clubs has played all its matches away. And page 34, multi-sectoral approach to help fight violence in sports. So Murkomen launches team to champion fight against gender-based violence on the local sporting scene. That's a story on page 34. And that helps us to conclude on the Daily Nation updates. Let's come down to the Standard. The Standard this morning, the top story here is life about to get worse for farmers. So MPs are considering regulations that will make farming a tough venture. One will need a license to sell an animal that must be registered. New authorities to run farming are to be set up as produce handlers will need to go back to school. This is a story on page 6. So this bill, actually we are having 19 bills on agriculture that could make the lives of farmers more difficult as they seek to regulate the sector. Under bill, I see horses, donkeys, mules, and ducks classified as livestock must be labeled. Registration, each label will detail the breed, date of birth, and information deemed necessary. We have the target. It is not clear whether the law being written targets corporate bodies or everyone. The scope, the bills targets all aspects of farming, from seeds and water to fertilizers and the produce. A story you can look at on page 6 of the Standard. Moving on, MPs seek a Dani alternative after deal cancellation. This is a story on page 5. So we continue to follow up on that. And I see still on the top page, SWAPO party wary of Namibia polls, and that is on the international news. And on the national news, more on the same. Tata, why I'm keen on 2027. Busia senator says he is keen to listen to Kenyans before he can formally announce bid, but says he will give it his best shot. A story on page 6 as well. And coming down to the financial standards today, we are looking at why Kenya's export strategy needs more effort to grow markets. So industry PS says there is a need to produce more, with the first target being Kenyans in those markets. A story covered on page 20. That's on the economy financial standard pullout. And I see here top banks, 230 billion bad loans war chest. So increased provisioning over the last 9 months signals distress by individual borrowers and businesses, with the share of loan defaults rising to 674.9 billion shillings in August from 641.3 billion shillings in March. A story on pages 22 all the way to 23. Let's come to the sports page. High stakes as Bayern host PSG. So after 4 games, Bayern have lost twice, including a 4-1 loss to Barcelona. And French giants PSG are one spot outside the knockout places entirely. A story on page 14. And moving on, I see page 38, Miles as Akelo is crowned the best during Nyanza Mag event. That's a story on page 38. Page 39, Eton Marathon, unrelenting in race to gain global status. So winners of the full marathon walked away with 1 million shillings each. Valerie Ayabe and Justus Kiprotich triumphed in the 42-kilometer contest. And that's a story covered on page 39. And finishing us up in the newspaper review segment is the Business Daily. And this morning, Adani terms 637 billion shilling lost in Kenya deal immaterial. So Indian Farm says cancelled contract not worth investors' time. So revenues equivalent to 0.004% of Adani Group sales. Well, we were about to sell ourselves to Adani that doesn't think it is worth investors' time. So I'm seeing Adani Group has downplayed the impact of Kenya's decision to cancel its contract to build power transmission lines and substations on its forecast earning. I see the Indian conglomerate, which stood to earn 637 billion shillings from the deal, termed the blow immaterial. So the contract said the firm did not require it to make any regulatory disclosure under Indian stock exchange rules, as it was within its ordinary course of business. Okay, that's good to know, Mr. Adani. But anyway, that's a story you can look at on page 2. And moving on, I see my renewed plea to politicians: don't get too far ahead with your pre-election selling without having the product to back it up. That's on a quote here by Mike Eldon, a story on page 9. And top page here, I see Ruto's gift to Hustler Fund savers cost Treasury 402 million shillings. So the Treasury spent 401.98 million in the financial year ended June 2024, following President William Ruto's directive to start gifting long-term savers under the Hustler Fund a shilling for every 2 saved. And I see Nairobi hospital members want IEBC to conduct polls. That is Nairobi Hospital, and also shilling trades at 4-month low on Trump election hit. And moving on, I see here the back page, stability or stimulus. CBK walks a monetary policy tightrope, and that's a story on page 24. And still here on the back page, we have the last word saying doubt increases with inaction. Clarity reveals itself in momentum. Growth comes from progress. For all these reasons, begin, start. Those who want to do business, begin. Whatever it is that the Lord has called you to do, just begin. And that's the newspaper review segment. We are done, and you can grab a copy of your favorite. But remember, Hope FM, at the top of every hour, we have news updates. Right here at Hope TV, we have 7 p.m. Dira and also 9 p.m. News Watch. So you can definitely catch up with the news updates, get to be informed, and let us keep praying for our nation, Kenya. So let's now look at the video of the day.